This topic of role of cross-sectional imaging uh, in adult congenital heart disease. So from residual anatomy to re-intervention planning. So it's not about surgery. In the surgery, it's not about what we cut, but what we plan to cut or what we try to intervene. So how adult congenital heart disease imaging is different. It's not about anatomy, it's about strategic planning, because adult congenital heart disease patients are not just grown up children with congenital heart disease. They are the ones who have had multiple surgeries done. They have baffles, they have leaks, they have remodeled anatomy. So we need to really focus on the strategic planning of these children or these adolescents or adults with congenital heart disease. So what imaging must answer? The imaging must answer what is the true anatomy after repair, what is progressing and what is stable. Is the anatomy or intervention ready? Is the anatomy ready for intervention? What are the coronaries? What are the vascular risks? Can we safely delay the intervention? Is it necessary to intervene now or can we do it later? Many of the interventional threshold in an adult congenital heart disease is based on cross-sectional imaging rather than symptoms. For example, if we look at a tetralogy patient, a repair tetralogy patient, latest AHA guidelines have told us that there are 3 phases, and phase number 2 is recognized only by imaging. And this is the phase where we should intervene, the transitional phase. So that is why cross-sectional imaging is important in adult congenital heart disease patients. So what counts as cross-sectional imaging? Any modality that reconstructs anatomy in 3 dimensions and allows a spatial interrogation beyond single plane views is the cross-sectional imaging. And what are the modalities that are available? We have CT, MR, 3D echo, and virtual or augmented reality, which actually does not help in planning. It also helps in integration of the teams in planning as well. So when to escalate to imaging? If you have poor acoustic windows, if there is a re-intervention which is considered, if there is suspected extracardiac pathology. So the bread and butter is echo, the 2-dimensional echo, because it will give you hemodynamics, it will give you anatomy. But when to escalate? Echo raises the question and cross-sectional imaging actually answers it. So we have 3D echo. 3D echo is like excellent because it has in-fast view. It can identify the septal defects, the patch margins, the valves, the clefts, but it has limitations. Limitations in terms of limited field of view, operator and window dependent, and not suitable for extracardiac anatomy. Then we have CT. We all are very well aware of CT, and we have cardiac MR as well. So I will walk you through 5 cases, and then we will see that how all these modalities have helped us in deciding treatment for those cases. So case number 1, from dilated RV to procedural readiness, cross-sectional imaging in a repaired TOF. So this is a patient who had a very dilated, this is I think 26-year-old who had a dilated RV. He also had a CMR done, and he was candidate for pulmonic valve replacement. But he also had a severe mitral regurgitation with the LV dysfunction, so he was a very high-risk candidate for surgery. So we planned to do the pulmonic valve replacement, that is percutaneous harmony, in which we did the CT. We looked at the length of the RVOT. And in the CT and the shape of the RVOT, if you can look at the shape of the RVOT, there are predefined criteria for the shape of the RVOT, and he was falling in the cylindrical, that is type 2, which is actually good for transcatheter pulmonic valve replacement. We did measurements in 4 areas of the pulmonic artery, just below the bifurcation at the main PA, and then 4 areas, and we decided that this is good for transcutaneous pulmonic valve number 25. The CT also helped us identify that where actually is the coronary artery, the one marked in right, is it close to the pulmonic valve or not. We also did virtual reality reconstruction in which we can actually split the heart and look at the heart from inside, and we can see that the LAD was little far from the annulus and the pulmonic valve could be tried. So we placed the pulmonic valve based on this, and this is the result after the pulmonic valve replacement. There was no paravalvular leak and there was no stenosis as well. The second case is an adult in which we were not sure that how the coronary arteries are. We did CT, which is nicely showing that there is a single coronary artery from the left sinus. There is no intramural course, and the patient went for surgery. Second is when TAPVR is in TAPVR. Cross-sectional imaging redefines the diagnosis. This is a patient of a 29-year-old. The CT was done at another center. We reviewed the CT and we saw we are coming from base to cranial, and we saw that this is the right atrium up there, which is like really dilated. The pointer is not working. This is the right atrium. This is the left atrium. And we will see that the veins, this is the right-sided pulmonary veins and the left-sided pulmonary veins opening into the left atrium. And left atrium actually was connected to a persistent levocardinal vein going there, and this levocardinal vein was opening into the innominate and then SVC. So this was a persistent levocardinal vein in which you can see the right-sided veins and the left-sided veins opening into the LA and then connected to the levocardinal vein. The surgeon actually partially ligated the levocardinal vein, and the patient is doing fine. So anatomy over assumption, 3D echo and supramitral ring diagnosis. So this is a patient who was diagnosed to have a basal muscular VSD, and there was like excursion problem at the mitral valve, and if you look at the 3D echo, we can very, very clearly see that there is a supramitral ring which is tightly adherent to the valve itself. We make use of the 4D marker, which can actually show us where the anterior and the posterior leaflets are. So in this patient, this is from the infas view, the surgeon's view. This is from the ventricular side, and we can see how the mitral valve is not opening nicely, and whereas on the right side, the tricuspid valve is opening nicely. He underwent surgery, and these are the views after the surgery. You can see the remarked difference, how the mitral valve is seen. This is an infas view from the surgeon's side. We are seeing from the atrium, and this is now from the ventricular side. We can see how nicely the thing is opening. This is another case of mitral stenosis who was getting treated as rheumatic heart disease. We did the echo and we found that there is a subaortic membrane as well, and there is a tightly adherent supramitral ring on the anterior and the posterior leaflet. The patient went surgery and is doing fine now. So my last example is a little different, going beyond these things, use of virtual reality, sizing beyond diameter, 3D echography in VSD device planning. So the virtual reality is after that. Okay, sorry. So this is a transesophageal echo in which we can look at the VSD. This is the VSD, and we use 3D to look at the VSD size, because on 2D, the VSD measured to be 3 to 4 millimeter only. When we looked at it in 3-dimensional, we found that the VSD was 6 by 8 millimeter. And instead of using a smaller device, we used a larger device. And then in post-operatively, as a post-device also, the 3D actually helped us look at the aortic valve from the aortic side and from the LV side. We knew that the cusp is not inside the valve and not inside the device, and there is no LVOT obstruction. So 3D actually helped us planning the case and looking at the results as well. So my fifth case is from anatomy to action, virtual reality guided planning for sinus venosus closure. So virtual reality, as I said, is not only, it's not an imaging modality, but it helps us make the visualization better. We can actually plan the case, we can put the baffle, we can put the stent and plan it with the interventional cardiologist. So sinus venosus defect is different than ASD. We all know that. It's a defect between the SVC and the RA junction, and there is unroofing of the right upper pulmonary vein, and it is usually not closed by a device, but a covered stent, it's not amenable for device closure. Covered stent creates an intravascular baffle that maintains the SVC patency but blocks the right upper pulmonary vein. So how did we use the virtual reality in this one? This is our own CT in which we segmented the CT into a virtual reality model. And by use of this orange thing is a split plane. We are actually now splitting the heart from the right atrium and going inside. This color is the SVC, that is the SVC, and the red color here, maroon, is the right upper pulmonary vein, and we can see the defect here at the SVC. And we will now, in the tool, take out the stent. Usually we use covered CP stents for SVC. We will put the stent at the place of the SVC, and then we will increase the size of the stent in the virtual reality to see if the pulmonary vein is getting obstructed or not, because most important complication is obstruction of the pulmonary vein. We will now increase the size of the SVC, this stent. And this we can do with our interventional cardiologist and see how this is looking now. So this is how we can plan. So what is the cross-sectional imaging in adult congenital heart disease? It is a layered decision framework. It starts with echocardiography, hemodynamics. Most important is hemodynamics and 2D echo. And if needed, it can go to 3D echo, cardiac CT. It's an anatomical backbone, cardiac CT for coronaries, for RVOT, for aorta, and for planning. Then we can take help of cardiac MRI, which can actually show volumes, flows, QPQS, regurgitant volumes. Then we can also take help of 3D echocardiography to look at the dynamic valves and septal anatomy. And then virtual reality or augmented reality can actually help us integrate and help a shared understanding of the disease, so that when the surgeon or the interventional cardiologist is going in, he or she has a clear plan to go in. So clinical question can be augmented by cross-sectional imaging and can lead to multidisciplinary meeting. So good imaging does not add information, it actually removes uncertainty. Thank you all.